Hello there, welcome to the future. In this case, it's the future of Dubai, and in particular case is the Museum of the Future you see in the back there. It's been recently opened for the public. I came here for 2 years ago to work for the Future Foundation here in Dubai, and one of the projects has been this incredible museum that tries to portray how the future look like. So this perennial question, how much we can see what the future can bring to us, what type of the new technologies there are, what type of the new ideas, what type of the social innovations, and how do we meet the challenges that we are facing currently. All of this is given an interpretation here in the museum. Now, when I came to Dubai, I realized that Dubai is very serious about the future. Unlike, I would say, most of the countries. They really want to understand, they really want to be ambitious, and they really want to improve. Of course, it always comes with a price when you go sort of a fast forward into the future. But the reward side is that you certainly are one of those pioneers that builds the real understanding what the future might look like, even if it's much more fanciful, much more different than we can possibly think of. Now, this Museum of the Future is, of course, a representation, one representation of the future. It builds a kind of an image how the future might work out. So when you go inside there, you're gonna be elevated as if in a shuttle to the space, and you're gonna see around us how the Earth looks from the perspective of space, and what type of the environment we're gonna be possibly living into 2071. In addition to that, there is a lot of other really fancy materials to think about, for instance, the biodiversity and how we can actually enlarge our biodiversity instead of what we currently do, which is that we are destroying the biodiversity at a fast rate. So all these challenges, and of course, climate change is not the smallest of these, it's probably the biggest one. Something is said here. Now, Dubai has been basically, in the course of the last 50 years, built on the sand. And all around here in Dubai, you see a kind of a museums of the past and of the future. This country has a long history in the past. Bedouins have been here for ages. Bedouins, those ones that were nomadic, moving from one place to another. And curiously enough, we are now coming into the world where people are moving from one country and one location to another, but of course in a very different way than Bedouins were doing that in the past. So the representation of the past, when we think about that here in Dubai, is something that speaks by itself also about the future. The culture here is very interesting because it is very past orientated too. It's a very religious, it's also quite hierarchical, the whole society, how it works, while at the same time they are deploying a lot of technologies to move and make things much faster. They still like very much control here, but on the other hand, they want to use all the possible resources and tools to fast track into the future. And that is what makes this place so exciting. And I would say that when we look at this place 20 or 30 years from now, we're gonna see a very different Dubai. Because Dubai itself is changing very fast. It's changing much more greener, Now you look at the streets here, they are still very much jammed with the traffic, with the cars, very old-fashioned model for mobility. But I know that they also have a lot of ambition to make it in a very different way, to build on autonomous vehicles, build new ways of mass transportation, increase amount of the mobility in an easy and light way, even using the bikes. In the last 2 years that I have been here, there's a lot of new bike lanes here. Of course, the environment is quite harsh. Well, I come from Finland, where there are quite harsh winters, even if it now coming to much warmer than it used to be, but still pretty much harsh. Here, the environment is very different way of harsh. There is a lot of heat, a lot of drought. In the last 2 years when I have been here, there has been practically no rain that I have seen. So the environment is harsh, but that also pushes us always to work. If we have everything plentiful, we are kind of living like a paradise. We just continue to live like that. We are not trying to reach out something else, to be ambitious, to build something different. So that's about the excitement which is here about the future. I think it stems from these sources that, hey, out of the scarce resources, we can build something particular. Of course, you can smell the oil money here because this is the region, the Gulf region, which has incredible amount of oil money reserves out of the 70 years of the development in which global societies in different parts of the world have converged in terms of the economies. So the economies have become very much alike, and they're using a lot of energy, which unfortunately is mostly done by fossil fuels still. And yet there is also this other drive, which is that, okay, how to become much more resource efficient? Here in the UAE, so in the United Arab Emirates, they have the largest solar park in construction right now, and many other initiatives to try to build a very different type of the future, sort of a post-oil era. The question is how rapid it will come, because we don't have much time. We really need to bring down the carbon emissions. Here, the per capita CO2 emissions are one of the highest, if not the highest in the world. So there is a lot of food for thought and things to act upon to make a very different lifestyle and the way that this city can run in a sustainable way. But the ambition is there, which is the most important. We humans, we worked out of our intentions. So it's hugely important that we have that intention. And out of these intentions start to come consequences, actions, and we propel out something. If we are not using our human capacities to build the intentions, we pretty much get stuck to the past in a way that we have seen a lot of happening in our world, sometimes in a very unfortunate way. But coming back here to Dubai, what I really like about this Dubai is that it is truly multicultural. It's a real, kind of a positive way, a Babylon of the world. And when I think about the future, I think about we're gonna have more cities, more environments like this, where people come together, living peacefully, building a tolerance for diversity, and thereby create a very unique and very different kinds of the cultures. And I see the possibility here. If that type of the culture is being created here in Dubai, it can be created also many other places where we have now problems with the wars, with the conflicts, and with all kinds of the problems that often is related to either non-communication or miscommunication and the prevalence of one type of the people over the other. Because the future in that respect needs to be very much different. We need to allow people to move from one place to another, to build their own lives wherever they want. That was the idea, for instance, where the European Union was built. And here you can see a little bit of the same thing happening, because here you can meet people from all parts of the world, particularly in this region, and I extend that to the India, Pakistan, all kinds of countries of all parts of the Asia, as well as the Europeans, but also Africans, even South Americans, and so forth, and Americans, of course. So there's a huge mixture here, and Dubai tries to be the kind of a B-hub for those kinds of people that want to build their future, that are ambitious about their future. And if they can do that by becoming a bit less control freak, by becoming more tuned to the future, by allowing even more than they do now, and getting rid of some of the monopolies, I think the future definitely will be here. Now, in this respect, I also want to remind you that often with people in the West, we tend to think that whatever comes first usually comes from the West. However, we are moving into the period of time where most of the innovation will become out of this Western sphere. And that means that the cities like Dubai will have a much bigger role in the future. Also the Asian cities, African cities, and South American cities, and the people there will gonna be the ones that bring the new ideas. And we Westerners be the one that follow the suit and see how interesting, how fascinating this new idea of dealing with things, how much more resource efficient it can be for my own life. So again, reaching out on the places like this Dubai, is actually reaching out of this kind of a narrow view that it's always the West that produces, and then there is the rest. And that view, because it's been there now for 200 plus years, that view needs to be changed. Along with that, a lot of things gonna change accordingly. So for instance, if you think about the economic weight of different regions, it's very interesting to think that now the whole, what they call the MEA region, so Middle East, some parts of the Asia, Africa, when you look at the particular adoption of the technologies, it's very fast in that region, much faster actually, and in most part of what we call the Western world. Because there is a hungriness. There is a hungriness to kind of a leap over certain stages of technological, societal, economic development, to fast track into the future, and to create the societies that are much more equal. Is built the idea that everyone has an access to the key resources, and that with that access they can create their own lives without anybody looking from the top and defining for themselves their own future. That future is still to come, but I see a lot of seeds that has been sown. And again, here in Dubai, a lot of those kind of seeds have been sprouting here and making this place a very particular place, which all of you recommend very strongly to visit and understand what type of the implication this type of the adoption to the new and being more connected to the new really means for us humans in this planet right now. Thank you for watching. Follow my YouTube, and let's meet soon again.